I'm Wayne Horder. I have been at TNC for 6 months, I think. Started in late May. Before this, I was kind of in the agency world doing a lot of digital marketing. So now I'm here as a digital production manager, sitting on our global digital team, specifically with the content team. Yeah, excited to be here. Today we're going to be talking about text messaging, we're going to be talking about why we would want to use text message, why we do use text messaging. Then we're going to move into kind of some data and analytics, talking about what, using numbers to figure out, why we do this and how we can best use it. Then we're going to talk about text messaging campaigns and case studies.
Sorry, Lane, they can't hear you.
They can't hear me.
Oh, Nicole's for you. Okay, continue. Sorry.
Okay.
We got someone saying they can't hear you. No, everyone else can hear. Sorry. Good.
Cool. Okay, good. Yeah, we're going to talk about...
Slow. I don't know if we can do anything about that.
Should I just talk louder?
Yeah, put it on a chair.
Troubleshooting.
Hang on, everyone.
Troubleshooting.
We're working on this. I don't think that matters. That's not higher, is it?
Closer.
I don't think it was. I just plugged it in. Oh, it looks like it's empty. It's not charging.
Okay.
You want to plug it up? Plug it on this side?
We can do that. Can we do that? No, we can't. Because it's plugged into the wall.
Oh.
Okay.
No. Oh, you're right. Good job, Matt. Can we do that? Thank you.
Cool. So, we good now? We're good to go? Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, awesome.
That was exciting.
It was. Whew. So yeah, we're going to talk about types of text messaging campaigns, and then some case studies. So we'll look at how we've been using it. Then we're going to talk about what makes a good text message and a good text messaging campaign. And then we're going to look into the future and see what's next. So moving right along, why use text messaging? So like any marketing tool, whether it's social media, websites, running ads in the newspaper, anything like that, we want to make sure that we have our goals aligned and that when we're using text messaging, we're doing it with purpose. So here we have kind of 3 of the goals that we like to talk about with the global digital team: awareness, engagement, and fundraising / lead acquisition. So when we're talking about engagement, awareness, we're talking about letting people know what TNC does. Talk about our work globally, what's new, and then spreading that message. Engagement is so engagement is encouraging engagement through website visits and actions to drive meaningful relationships with TNC's audiences. So whether that's signing a petition or signing up for something, just getting people engaged. And then finally, fundraising / lead acquisition pretty much explains itself. Trying to get people to donate, trying to get people from prospects to members, so anything like that. So when we talk about text messaging and when you're thinking about setting up a text campaign for yourselves, try to keep these things in mind. In the presentation, I'll talk about how we can use text messaging to accomplish any and all of these goals. So something to think about. So moving into some facts, this is just some cool stuff I found on the internet. This cool graphic over here explains a lot of the stuff, but so some things to consider: 67% of the U.S. Has smartphones. So I think that's interesting because you can also look at the 33% that doesn't have a smartphone. And the nice thing about text messaging is that with just sending people text, we can reach both of those groups. A lot of our texts have links in them, so if you have a feature phone, so a phone that can connect to the internet but maybe not do all the stuff that a smartphone can, then text messaging is a good option. We're not asking people to take a picture, download an app, usually with text messaging. We've been using it really to drive, people to a website, or just to tell people that, hey, we just bought a, huge preserve in Cumberland, check it out. So that's really cool. 20% of emails are open, 90% of texts are opened within the first 3 minutes of them being received, which is just nuts. I have some cool charts I'll show you later, but that stat to me, just 90% of texts are opened within the first 3 minutes of getting them, is absolutely insane. 90 seconds is the average time it takes to respond to a text message. We're not always looking for responses, but it's good to know that if we are, that usually we get them pretty quick. And then 70 to 75% of people, I was finding two stats, but 70-75% of people don't mind receiving promotions from brands via text message. So I know sometimes it feels like it's a pretty invasive form of marketing. I think we all look at text messaging as this kind of personal thing that we do. It's how we connect with family, it's how we connect with friends. So I think just moving into kind of that realm that people have and kind of people feel sacred is a little scary. But this stat really stuck out to me that a lot of people really welcome it. And then I'll talk about it a bit later, but, we're only texting people who said, yes, you can text me. So that's very important. So moving on to the platform. So when I talk about TNC and texting, this is what I'm talking about. We use a platform called Mobile Commons by Upland Software. It's something we've had for a couple of years. It's software that we have a pretty good relationship with one of their reps. We always feel comfortable reaching out to them. Pretty cool. So when you talk about texting, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, well, who are you texting? So we have what's called a shared short code. So a short code is just the number that people text when we ask them to text a number, or it's the number that texts them when they sign up for a list. So it's 97779. And when I say it's a shared short code, I mean that it's shared with everyone at TNC, but it's actually also shared with a couple other organizations. We did that for cost-saving reasons. We could get our own short code, but that's something, we'd really have to look into. But I think there's 2 or 3 other nonprofits that you'll see with this short code. So if you're ever out and about and you see 97779 on a poster and it's for, some other organization, don't panic. It's a shared short code, which has its pros and has its cons. So also when I talk about texting, we currently have an audience of 46,600 people in our database, which is pretty big. Most of them have come in through the Action Center. So if you go to take a action through our Action Center, whether that's signing up for a pledge, you usually enter your phone number, and then there's a box that you either have to check or uncheck that says receive updates via text message. This is a number that we've been building for a couple of years. Ethan Kearns, who's kind of the head of the systems team, text messaging was kind of his project for a while, and then since I came on board, he's been transitioning it onto me. So this is something he's been building for a long time. So a lot of success we have, we can kind of help. We can kind of cite him for that. We can send 100,000 texts per month, which sounds like a lot, but with a list of 46,000 people, that's really only 2 texts per month that we can target people. This is a number that we just pay for. That's how we got this. We can pay for more, so forth. So as the program continues to grow, as we continue to learn things, maybe that number will change. But when you are thinking about, hey, how can I use text? Maybe for this year end or, for early 2020, this is kind of the ceiling that we're dealing with. So, and then, as I mentioned, we currently reach out to this list twice a month. So that's just kind of some context when I talk about texting. So I want to move on now to analytics. Huge shout out to Jenny and her team for helping pool a lot of these numbers, pulling all this data. So these are just some 4 kind of quick facts that I wanted to pull out and point out. The first one is that SMS drives page views. So, for example, we sent out a text right when the Amazon fire was just kind of sweeping the news, and that's what everyone was talking about on social media. We published an article, and then we immediately pushed out a text. I can talk about this more later, but that one text got 2,000 unique visitors right after we sent it. So this picture up here on the right is not that text, but that's just kind of, that's another example of a text that we sent out. I believe this was the IPCC report that was sent. That was a global communications piece that we pushed out through text, but you can see up here, this is traffic. This is total traffic, so a lot of this is from other sources, but this, we sent it late on Wednesday, and so you can see the spike in traffic on Wednesday, and then continuing into Thursday. And then this is actually the text that went out yesterday, so some of you might have received a text about the Florida Panther, but these 2 screenshots were pulled from a program we use called Parsley, and then we can see the spike in traffic. So this went out at about 2 p.m., and it actually went out at 2 p.m. in every time zone. So you can see the first spike here is Eastern, and then Central, and then finally we end up with Pacific over here. So around 5 p.m. Eastern, if I did that math right. Time zones are weird. So you can see just the sheer spike in traffic that we can contribute to text messaging, and thanks to our wonderful analytics team, we're able to, with the right source code, go into Adobe Analytics and really track how our audience moves through there. So our second point is that our audience takes action. So the Paris Agreement text, we, again, once the president announced that we were pulling out the Paris Agreement, we sent out a text, and I'll show you that a little bit later, but we said, hey, stand up for nature, stand up for science, and we texted out a link to the Action Center, and we had 511 forms filled out there, and I'll dig into that more later. Third point I want to make is that readers come back to the site. In July, we were able to look that we had a 19% retention rate, so that people who came on the site in June came back in July. So, yeah.
Does that mean 19% of the people that came from text came back in July? Yep. Cool.
Yep.
Which is higher than normal.
Way higher than normal. For the folks on the phone, way higher than normal.
Yeah, way higher than normal. So that's awesome to see. And then the fourth point is that we have a lower bounce rate than paid advertising. It's about 10% less. So that just means that when people visit the page, they are less likely to bounce out. Is that a correct way of saying that?
They're viewing more than one page.
They're viewing more than one page. Okay, yeah. So those are just some quick bites of analytics. We can obviously pool a lot more, and didn't want to spend too long on this, but just kind of, again, driving the point home that we have an engaged audience. They do take action, and we shouldn't be afraid to ask them things. So, yeah. We have not done a donation ask yet. Oh, okay, sorry. During my time, I have not done that. We have in year end. That's correct. Sorry, thank you. Yeah. Do you know how much?
I don't know, a lot, even would know.
Okay. Yeah. But I do want to touch on donations a bit later. But cool. So touch on some analytics, why it's important. Now I kind of want to move into a little more on specifics. When talking about text messaging and text campaigns, I like to break it down into 2 kind of styles, if you will, of campaigns. So the first one I like to call is outbound texting. And the easiest way to relate this is kind of like email. It's that at some point you signed up, and then we just send you content. So this is a text that was sent out in August. This was an article, I'm trying to remember. It was something about state. Yeah. So it's sending a group of users whose numbers we already possess, and that they have consented to receiving text alerts. user, and then the user receives the information, and then they take an action if we ask them to. So moving on to some examples. As I mentioned, the Paris Agreement. On Monday, we texted 46,000 people. We had just over 2,000 unique visitors, 511 forms, as I talked about. Kind of to your question, we did not ask at all for donations. We didn't say, hey, donate because the Paris Agreement is really important. We didn't ask for anything. We still had 34 donations, and we raised close to $1,000 on just that text. So I think that goes to show that this is an audience that we're not asking for these donations, but they care enough to donate, that they, enjoy the content, they understand the importance of it, and that because of that, they then, engage and take an action. So, another example, I've talked about the Amazon fires. We had close to 3,000 visits from just over 2,000 people, 53 actions taken there, which is also interesting because we linked to this story, which has a CTA right at the top to take an action, but again, at no point are we asked, we're not asking people to take an action, but people still felt obliged to because of that engaging content and that understanding the importance of that. So we had 53 actions taken, over 100 people replied to the text, which is something I can touch on a bit later. We had 9 donations that raised just over $400, and at no point were we asking people to donate, were we asking people to take an action, but they're just really driven by that content and that understanding the importance of it. And this is kind of a funny example, but we've been playing around with the idea of signing text because texting is so personal. We wanted to make our text message a little more personal. So I've been signing them. This right here is a response that we received. They said, thank you, Lane. I've posted to my Facebook page. I just love that people kind of, they just make it so personal. The text after this, I did not sign, and someone asked where I was by name. They said, where's Lane? Is he okay? So it's kind of cool. Yeah. Well, it is nice. Yeah. So before I move on from this, do we have any questions? Is this a good time?
I have a question.
Cool.
The question, you might need to repeat it for the phone.
Yeah.
There. If this text lists U.S. members only, and is there a list on Connect or somewhere where you can share the breakdown for how many text subscribers there are in each state?
Yes. So the question was, is this U.S. only, and is there any way we could see the breakdown per state? Is that right?
Yes.
Yes. So we can only text U.S. numbers. We can only text people in the U.S. As far as a breakdown per state, I think unfortunately I don't know of a way just to kind of quickly sort by state. We are able to, this is kind of technical, but in the back end we can group people, we can create groups, so we can say text people from Illinois, and then if we have their information saved in our system as, their state is Illinois, then we can target them that way. So we can target by state, but I can find it out. It takes about 5 minutes, but I don't think there's a way right now to just kind of quickly click a button and say, oh, just show me people from Illinois. Yeah.
Can someone opt out through text messaging?
Yes. Illuminate, I don't think so, but it will update in the system.
Can I repeat the question?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. So the database the question was, can people opt out of text messaging, and if they opt out of text messaging, are they opting out of other forms of communication?
No.
Oh, okay.
So right now you're updating your mobile comments.
Yes, that's correct.
You can sync up to Illuminate and it triggers an opt out.
No. So the list of people, the 46,000 people that we have, those are saved just in mobile comments. that's not linked to Luminate at the moment. So when people opt out of texting, they just text the word stop, and then they will be unsubscribed. And so they will never receive a text from us again. Right, yeah. Yeah, because that's a completely separate, they'll still receive phone calls, because that's a different system.
Maybe the point is being more clear in the call out that says opt out from text messaging specific to the platform.
Oh, okay.
Because we are not, at the moment, we're not connected, so.
Right. Yeah, this is. Yeah, and that. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's definitely something we can touch base on. Do we have any other questions? Cool.
Well, I guess we'll start with this one because it's kind of a follow-up. What do opt-out rates for texting look like compared to email and subscribe rates at TNC?
Good question. So when I came on board and, what's up? Oh, yeah, sorry. What do opt-out rates look like compared to email?
Yes.
I can't speak to our email unsubscribe rates, but for text messaging, and this, I'll get to this a little later, but it's interesting because, let me see if I can find an example. Okay, we're not, sorry, I'll flip back. When users first receive a text, when they opt in receiving a text, there's certain language they have to receive. That's data and message rate supply, text info for help, text stop to unsubscribe, and then letting them know that this is a recurring message. So they receive that language once, and then after that, they have to receive what we call stop language, probably once a month is, I think, our policy moving forward. So when a text includes, so here in this example, there is no stop language, quote unquote. But when we do include that language, opt-out rates are higher, just because it reminds people that, oh, they can, this is how they do it. But I'm trying to think. Last text we sent out to it was, I think, 46,000 people. We had just over 100. It's less than 1% usually each time. So I think it was about 100 people opted out to the last text message. Yes. Yeah. So probably about 1% or less.
We have more questions.
Yeah. Okay.
Can we include photo with text?
Yes. We can include photos with text. Yes, we can. It counts as 2 texts sent, though. So if a text is longer than 160 characters, or it includes an image, it can send as multiple texts, which isn't bad, which is do. However, that just runs our numbers up. So going back to that 100,000 number, if we send out 2 texts to everyone, and that's going to, instead of counting as 46, that's going to count as 92. Did I do math right there? Yeah. So yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, we have more questions. All right, so question from Phil Rudolph. Are there any local or state case studies? I'd be curious to use it on field-based campaigns. I don't know if you're going to cover that.
Yeah, I'll cover that a bit later. The question was, are there local or state kind of case studies? So yeah, I'll touch on that in a bit.
Has text been used or will it be used to mobilize political advocacy?
Oh, has text been used to mobilize political advocacy? We have not used it, or at least I have not used it since my tenure here. I don't know if we have in the past. I'd say the closest thing we've used it for is the Paris Agreement, which was, I think, kind of taking a local event and then asking people to take an action there. I think it absolutely can.
Yeah, a good use case.
Yeah, that is a good use case. Awesome. So now I kind of want to talk about a second form of text messaging. It's not really a form of text messaging, but in my mind it helps me to break them apart. So this is actually a good point for Philip. The second one I like to call is inbound texting. So this is where a user is out and about. Maybe they're at an event, they see a poster, an advertisement. Maybe it's on our website. We actually have a few of these on our site, where they're asked to text a keyword to 97779. So the user texts the keyword, TNC responds with a message, and then the user then receives that information or takes a response. This example over here is from Arkansas. So Arkansas, I was just working with their team about getting this is a keyword set up for one of their events at a preserve. I forget the name of it, but it was something involving a rattlesnake. So they wanted to say, they wanted all of their attendees to text rattlesnake to 97779, and then in return they received this message that says, thanks for supporting conservation in Arkansas, donate here. And so that link then goes to a donation page that we worked with Catherine, Floyd, and membership to get the right source code on there, and we worked with our analytics team to make sure that we are able to track their traffic into the site. And so this is that message, that stop language that I was talking about earlier. So it has the 4 aspects: recurring messages, reply, stop to quit, help for info, messages, and data rates may apply. So that's that block that they have to receive when they first opt in. Okay, do we have a question?
Is this like within a certain time period that they could, like you say, just a year from now take a rattlesnake?
Yeah. So the question is, how long does the keyword last? Yeah. So it can last as long as we have the campaign up. So if you were to pull out your phones right now and text rattlesnake, everyone would get this text message.
So could we set it up so if you text message to Christina, and a person can go to Christina's page and can become a Christina?
Can you send them to a sustainer page?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what a
particular form. So instead of doing a one-time donation.
Oh, yeah. So we can send them to any form that we want here. So this is that lil.ms link, is just a link shortener. So we can send them wherever we want. And again, I'll touch on this a bit later, but as long as it's mobile friendly, is really just that number one. That's the most important thing, I think, to me, is that if they can't load it on their phone. But yeah, we can send them to whatever page that we'd like, and we can change that link, if we need to. We can set up the campaign. So I can change this text for rattlesnake if we want to. If Arkansas decided that they don't want them to get this text anymore, that we want them to get something else, then we can change that. So yeah, I have just 3 examples of this. Pretty quick right here. So how do we, thinking about this kind of inbound campaign, how can we use that? Well, I like to say that we can customize content based on their responses. So this is, I have no idea where this text came from. It was already here when I started. I think it was something that someone had set up. But if you text overlooked to 97779, you get a picture of a fish, and then it says misunderstood, maybe even overlooked and underappreciated wildlife, have a story to tell. Which one would you like to hear about? And then it gives users options about which story they or which article they want to read more about. Do they want to learn more about bats? Do they want to learn more about beetles? And so then users can text their response. So here I said A, because if you know me, I really like bats. So we sent them right when, it's pretty instant, right when you text A, then they got this link that says, get the science behind the first bat successfully treated for white nose syndrome, and then a link to a story about bats. What's cool about this too is that we can save that response in mobile comments. So I responded with, yes, I want to know more about bats. So we can save it so that now whenever, let's say TNC has another text about bats, and we say, we want to text those people who love bats, who are like the biggest bat fans. Who are they? And we can go back and we can say, oh, well, it's the people who responded A to this, so let's target them again. We kind of did this with October 4th, so the next example. We sent out a text to everyone that said, hey, October 4th is going on. Click this link to learn more. So about 2,000 people clicked that link just to learn more about October 4th. And then Julia Amato said, hey, I'd love it if we did a game, like a trivia game. But, you know, I want to target people that are interested in October 4th. So we were able to go back and find that list of 2,000 people who clicked the original October 4th link and just send them this. So this is kind of, I guess you'd classify this as an outbound text, but I just really like this example, so I wanted to put it in here. But we can also use text messaging to engage users with games to provide information. I guess it doesn't have to be a game, but I just think a game is kind of the easiest way to think about it. So Julia came up with the idea of trivia. It's like trivia, but with tree in it. Yeah, you get it. So we asked them, do you want to play? They say yes. Then we just played a multiple choice game with them, where they can learn about trees, they can learn about water. What's cool here is that we're able to customize their response whether or not they got it correct. So I guessed B, which was right, so I said, you're correct. Next question, on average, water makes up what percentage of beer? I said D, thinking it was 90 to 95%. But since I got that wrong, we're able to customize that and say, oh, almost the answer is D. You know, we can actually, oh, I know what I did here. This is undercase. This was an error case that I then went back and fixed. But my bad, I should have proofread this. But as you can see, if Mobile Commons, for whatever reason, thinks that the user provided the wrong answer, we can provide them with a customized response. So we have more than, you know, just, do you want, you know, if they send one thing, then we can send them multiple responses. Kind of like an if then that kind of thing. And so finally, kind of as I was talking about with Arkansas, we can send users information and links. So this is, again, with October 4th. We had signage that said text trees to 97779. And then when they did that, they received a link here that would take them to a donation page. So yeah, so that's outbound versus inbound messaging. So yeah, moving on, I'll break down here kind of what makes a good text message. What do we think about when we're crafting a campaign? When you want to make a text campaign, what should you incorporate? So first and foremost, we want to identify that this is coming from TNC. As I mentioned, 97779 could be coming from multiple different organizations. And then oftentimes people just don't save a short code in their phone. I don't know if people get text messages from companies, but you know, if Chipotle texts me that my order is ready, they don't come up as Chipotle. It's just like a random number. So we want to make sure that people know. There have been times where we didn't identify ourselves until maybe later, and people were asking, hey, who is this? They're responding. They don't know. Next part is we want to get engaging copy that fits the character limit. We don't always need to fit the character limit, but it's good to know because usually we want those texts to arrive as one, but with some carriers it will split into two, which can make the text look a little awkward. For example, we want to keep this one to under 160 just because of the sheer volume we were sending it out. If you're sending out a text to like just a few people, then we can do some more interesting things like include a picture or some emojis. So yeah, we had a question?
I'm sorry, do we ever have, like some star, some popular celebrity send out text message and just say, go to TNC website,
So the question was, do we have any kind of influencer?
Where they send out the text message to their link and try to, someone who's in alignment with.
Right. So the question is, do we have people like influencers in the alignment try to push to our site? I'm not sure. I don't know of anyone or of any kind of situation.
Other social channels, like instead of signing it lane, you can sign it like Senator DiCaprio.
Yeah, seriously. That's exactly what, yeah. Like, people are seen or, you know.
That'd be cool, yeah. Yeah, not to brag, but I do have a pretty big following on text. Yeah. And that's kind of, working with influencers, that's something that's kind of like crossed my mind, is that we could do, something with, maybe Sally Jewell, we could, kind of do a ask me anything kind of thing that, because we can receive texts, we can read them, and then we can respond to them in real time. So if that's something, we would, anyone would ever want to consider, is kind of doing like just ask us anything, and then we can reply to those, in real time, is definitely an option. Right, yeah. Ask a scientist or an oceanographer, yeah. I really like that idea. I think the exciting thing about this platform is that we can do so much, and then there's just so many possibilities, and it's just really just kind of how creative can we get here.
I'd like to share a point with the room on that.
Yeah.
Daniel Sotolino, our lawyer, the chat has said, in general, TNC should avoid using text for anything that could be considered electioneering, partisan action, or lobbying. So, in response to the political advocacy, he said you should obtain legal review from government relations attorney Cameron Tony if you want to do that. So, that's TNC.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Then we have more questions when you're ready.
Okay, I'll wrap up with this slide, then if that's okay. The next part, we want a clear call to action. So we want to give people a reason to click. We want to give people some sort of direction. So how they did it, so that if people click the link, they're going to say, oh, well, we're going to learn how they did it, so that way it's not a surprise, or it gives people some direction. Next thing, shortened link with the proper track code, kind of talked about this a little bit. If it is a membership or donation ask, we want to make sure it has the right source code, so that's working with membership on that, and then working with our analytics team to make sure it has the right tracking, so we can understand that when traffic comes to the site, we know exactly from where, and so forth. And then finally, the correct legal language, since this text was going out to a group of people who have opted in and already received the standard text language that is required, then we were able to just put reply stop to quit. So some other tips on how to make a good text message campaign. Make sure the page you're linked to is mobile friendly and responsive. We have some pretty complicated maps, some interesting animations on our site. So we just want to make sure that looks good on mobile, kind of first and foremost. Second point is use a simple / easy to remember keywords. So with rattlesnake, when we set that up, I set up, so rattlesnake spelled with 2 T's, but what if people think it's spelled with 2 D's? So we set that up. Maybe people think rattlesnake is 2 words, so make sure that, we incorporate that. We don't want to use a very complicated word that people might misspell. But if we are using a more complicated word, or a word that's often auto-corrected in your phone, so for instance, we have a CTA on our site that says text Batcave to 97779. Phones will often make that 2 words, so we want to make sure that Mobile Commons catches both Batcave as 1 word and Batcave as 2 words. And so we can set multiple keywords to send the same message. So kind of no matter, if people make a mistake, then they still get the same message. So is the content timely? With the Paris Agreement, the Amazon files, we didn't want to send that out a week later because, the story's gone by then. So we want to make sure that when people get it, that it's timely and that they want to read it right there. We need to be mindful of other time zones when we're sending a text. Thankfully, Mobile Commons has a really cool system that we're able to send text by time zones. So we can say either send it 2 p.m. today for everyone, right now, send it 2 p.m., or you can say send it 2 p.m. in their time zone so that it does kind of spread out. And we saw that in one of the earlier charts that I had showed, that it kind of peaks and then it'll dip and it'll peak again and it'll dip and then it'll kind of keeps peaking as texts keep getting sent out. So that way we're not sending a text to East Coast at 9 a.m., but Pacific's getting it at 6 a.m. and it wakes everyone up, and then they're really happy with TNC at that point. So. So yeah, again, just going back to this, does this align with our goals? Let's be mindful of this. Let's not send text just because we can, just because it's cool. Let's really have a purpose. Let's make sure that our goals are aligned. And then finally, have we reached out to this group recently? Are we suppressing the right groups? So when I say by suppressing the right groups, I work with Karen in membership, and she has a group that she targets. And so when I'm sending out a text, I have to be mindful of, did Karen just send a text? Do we want to send them the same text twice? So it's just something to consider. And then have we reached out to this group recently? With Giving Tuesday coming up and December, we're obviously all organization-wide doing a big kind of push and pushing out a lot of content. So we just want to make sure that we're not asking too much of our audience, and then we're not going to, drive them to insanity. So what's next for text messaging? This is, I'm as I said, I'm about 6 months into the role here, and that this is kind of a platform that we've used for a bit, but I've been tasked with kind of building out this program, and this is part of why I'm standing up here doing this presentation. So we want to build governance around best practices and policies, so make sure that when we are sending out text that we're complying with legal. And now, we have the correct language, and that best practices, pretty much all that last slide is written down somewhere, and we have that documentation. So we want to better understand our audience. This is still kind of new to a lot of people, and so we want to understand what works best and what doesn't. And then kind of same thing with 3, is that we establish these baseline metrics that, if we get, a lot of donations from one text, should we expect that from the next text, or should we expect that from, the 3rd text from now? So it's very new, to kind of our marketing plan. So we're kind of all learning together, and part of my job here is to make sure that our progress is documented, and that when we do send out a campaign, that we learn from that, and then we can take that data and then apply it to future campaigns and just be as efficient as we possibly can be. That kind of goes into 4 creative campaign ideas to engage with members. It's ideas of can we do a game for October 4th? Let's try it out. Let's look at the data. Let's look at our audience. Let's look at our goals and see if, that's something we want to do. But I'm always open to campaign ideas, and I'd love to hear from, every single one of you about how we can make this better and how we can make this more creative, and how we just be better. And then 5, continue to work with state chapters and teams across TNC to meet organizational goals. I think global digital, we're very set on driving traffic, but if text can help, drive donations, I want to know about that. And, I want to help you reach your goals, with text messaging.
Lane, could you talk about how someone in the field at a state chapter might work with you on a message, either just a campaign, one-off?
Yes, So the question was how can someone, from a state chapter work with me and my team, and how they can engage with us. First you can email me, lane.horder@tnc.org. I also work here at WOW. I'm up on 6, so you can swing by if you're around. But it's something we're working on is building out a digital request. Well, actually there is a digital request form right now, so you can go on through. Janelle, is that on the digital.nature.org? All the request forms?
No, there's
Okay. Okay, so you can go through Connect, and through the digital request, you can request a text message. You can also reach out to me via email, and I'd be more than happy to work with you one-on-one. I've already met with a couple state chapters with Arkansas, for example, and helped them get a campaign set up. I think I've worked with Nikolai out in Washington State, I believe, to kind of get some text set up. So we are working on some more formal systems and having kind of this more formal requests. But right now, if you do want to, if text messaging is something you're interested in, then please reach out to me through email. So So I'll open up to questions now, if we have any.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we have a question from Julia Amato. How does engagement rate for outbound versus inbound texting compare?
Great question. So that's one of the things I wanted to talk about when we talk about these baseline metrics, is that we haven't done a lot of inbound texting. We've done a lot of outbound text messages, but inbound texting is, I think, something I would really love to look into. Candidly, I haven't seen as much success as outbound, but there are a lot more factors when you consider promotion of it, how many people are actually seeing the short code and the keyword. That's one thing to consider, because it's something I haven't, personally seen. But yeah, I'd really love to kind of take a deep dive into more inbound and see how we can make those campaigns even more successful than they are.
Question from Andrew Benson. Can we receive questions from an audience during an event for Q&A via text using our platform?
So can we receive questions via text for like an event? Yeah, absolutely. We can do that. In Mobile Commons, you can see it's kind of like an inbox, like an email inbox, where it's just, this person sent this message. So, you can absolutely text in questions that way. Mm-hmm.
Also a good way to cultivate an audience, advertising that.
Yeah, that is as Matt said, that's a good way to cultivate an audience at an event, keep people engaged. And then the nice thing is that you can save, now that they've texted in, and as long as they get the right language and that, they understand that they're opting into receiving more text messages, then you can then have that information saved, and then you can target them for future events, which is pretty cool. But that is as long as, you have the right legalese in there. So. Mm-hmm.
Can you filter, we got that one, the question answered. Can we geo-target text messages, for example, for event invitations in a local area?
Can we geo-target text messages, so, for example, events in a local area? Yes, if we have their information saved. So, for instance, I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. You could target people we have the technical ability to target people by zip code, for example. But yeah, if you had a list, right, yeah. So if there were a group, you could target them. Exactly. I think the ability is there. I feel like I've read an example about that, but I'm struggling to come up with the exact example. So, but yeah, you can.
Would you need a list of zip codes?
Yes. I don't know if you could target by would you need a list of zip codes to target them? Yes. I don't know if you could do it by area code. That's a good question. I'll look into that. I can follow up. Okay, cool. And if I can't answer any questions, please follow up with email or please. So. Cool. Yeah. Green.
Is there some sort of evaluation process to approve which text might be appropriate to send, or can I just give you all like that?
Is there an evaluation process to approve? No, it's kind of going through our content team. When we do send the big text out to like 46,000 people, we've had some requests. So October 4th, for instance, I think came through as a request to send that out to the group as a whole. And then I think we just kind of reviewed that internally amongst ourselves.
Are you formalizing that as part of your governance?
Yeah. That's something I'd like to do. Sorry, I felt like a politician for a second. Yeah. Is that part of your platform movement? But yeah, great question. Thanks. Cool. Well, that does it for me then. Thanks so much, everyone, for hanging in there. This will be recorded, and we're going to send it out. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay, cool. And then, yeah, of course, please let me know if you have any questions. If you're in the room, we can talk after. But, yeah, shoot me an email. I'm on Slack and Skype as well.
We'll also send out a survey. We'd love feedback on these sessions. I heard that we need better agendas, so we're just trying to work on that. So use the feedback.
Yeah, so survey coming soon. So, yeah. Thank you very much.
Yay!